Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be studying the Constitution Amendment 17 plus. I don't know where we're ending just yet, but we're just going to keep cruising through it. As you grab Michael Holler's book, I'd like to thank you for joining us as we take one step further on our journey through the history and foundation of the United States of America. Would you like to be a part of what we're doing? Pray for each other and for us, fellowship in your own study, and then go forth and make disciples. All right, who's reading first?
That'll be me. Doug reading Amendment 17. Passed by Congress May 13th, 1912, ratified April 8th, 1913. No, Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution was modified by the 17th Amendment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislators. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislator of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election as the legislator may direct. This amendment shall not be so construed as to affect the election or terms of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution.
All right. First thoughts.
So before this, I I guess I just don't remember the terms for the senators. I thought it wasn't it always two? Was it not two?
Two senators for 6 years for each state.
Right, but before this, because it says this changed it. So what was it before this?
So, what this changed was who voted. Previously, it was the state's legislators that put together their senators and sent them to Hollywood. But this made it so that there was a popular votes for who the senator was.
Okay, that's all it changed.
It changed the dance partner. Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Now, it's interesting. It says here that each senator shall have 1 vote. I'm wondering if previously each state had 1 vote and the senators had to agree on that vote. So I wonder if that changed too.
Hmm.
Now I want to go back and look.
Yeah.
Article 1, all the way back to the beginning. Section 3. It was only the very beginning. Oh, I found Article 2.
Fair
Almost.
enough.
No, it says each senator shall have 1 vote as well in section
Okay.
3. Okay, yeah, so the only part that was changed was it's not chosen by the legislature anymore.
Mhm.
And then the vacancy part was changed as well.
Yep. And that's where it says the executive authority. Currently, all executive authorities are governors
Mhm.
that I'm aware of.
That's interesting. What are the other, I mean, I guess it's up to the states individually as to what that power is, right? But how would that process go if they wanted to change it? Yeah.
My flights of fancy goes to King has executive authority. So if Great
Mhm.
Britain decided to join the United States of America, but keep their king as the executive authority, or a duke as the executive authority, they could by fixing a whole lot of other legal matters. Maybe.
So the process for a current state to change it would be pretty
What's
difficult.
that?
I mean, so the process for a current state to change it would be pretty difficult. I can't imagine states willingly volunteering to have a king instead of a governor.
Well, and also not all states that came into the Union were as powerful as, say, Great Britain. They were pretty weak. A lot
Mm.
of the territories, for example, right now, there's Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. Samoan Islands. There's quite a few territories that haven't become states themselves yet. And in as much that they currently have. They might not even big enough to have a governor. They may be a city or about the size of a city, and they may only have like a mayor as their executive.
You said yet. Are there plans for that? I mean, for those territories to become states?
Possibly.
Hmm.
There's a there pre there was a hurricane that nearly wiped Puerto Rico off the map. And then the Clintons rolled in, and a whole lot of money went into Clinton coffers. And there was water on the tarmac, and there was massive fraud all the way down. And, all this money that was supposed to go to help those hurricane victims didn't. It evaporated, and whatever help was sent wasn't actually given out to people, just rotted on the tarmac. Whole nasty story. But before that, there was talks of like making DC a state, Puerto Rico a state, so that the Democrat Party could have four more senators with those two actions.
Right.
And that goes back to the, once again, with a two-thirds majority, allowing more states into the union.
It's all about packing the vote.
Yep.
It's all political. That's a
Now,
shame.
it could be Puerto Rico can come in if Eastern Oregon gets to become its own state, Eastern Oregon, Washington.
Hmm.
So, Cascadia, not the Flying City.
I'm assuming they're very red.
Very, yeah. Outside of Portland and Seattle, there's not, you know, very red,
Hmm.
very rural. Oregon has a lot more desert than farmlands, but there are still a lot of farmlands. So, all right. Any more questions on that one?
Nope.
All right. 18.
All right, 18. Passed by Congress December 18th, 1917, ratified January 16th, 1919. Excuse me, repealed by Amendment 21. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within, the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. The Congress and several states shall have concurrent power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislature of the several states, as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission hereof to the states of the Congress. It's a prohibition.
Prohibition.
What was the idea behind prohibition? What were they trying to accomplish?
Social engineering. Looking at 1919, this is still one of those laws from the Woodrow Wilson era. Um, an end of public intoxication.
Was this a Democrat law or Republican law?
I honestly don't know.
I could see
Um,
it going both ways.
I have seen, so Stephen Crowder fan, and he has pictures of the women who were very prohibitionist, and they held signs that says "Lips that touch liquor shall not touch mine." And of course, they were all dog ugly and old. So it's not the attractive crowd, shall we say, but it's still and that's what he kind of points out. But a lot of this was trying to social engineer by law people's behavior.
Hmm.
I am not yay alcohol. I am not boo alcohol. I take as biblical a stance as I can where drunkenness is bad. A little alcohol for a little wine for your stomach is good. That's what Paul says to Timothy to help infections. Personally, I've got a shot of something that I take whenever I have a sore throat to help burn the germs to death because those
Science.
suckers need to die. But there is danger in drunkenness. So,
For sure.
but they went from, how do I put this? Here's an example outside the box. Well, let's just people get in drunk driving accidents, so they take away cars. No more cars for anybody. The people who couldn't handle the responsibility were not the only ones punished by this law.
Mhm.
Same thing here. It took it away from everybody, people who could handle their liquor or keep hold over their liquor that they weren't imbibing and drunken. But in order to solve public drunkenness, they just went all the way and said, nope, no more alcohol. And here is the most important word in here that gives me hope for the 16th Amendment, the one that established the IRS. At the very beginning in the header, you said repealed by Amendment 21. We can repeal these.
Mm. Isn't that what Trump wants to do? Doesn't Trump want to get rid of the IRS?
Yes, but he cannot. He can fire, he can change target, but it is not in his power to eliminate it because it is a constitutional provision that was put in there.
Mm.
So Trump by himself cannot. We can. Enough people working together. That's why a lot of people working on the flat tax and the fair tax is to, okay, what if we took away the IRS? What would we replace the necessary income for the United States of America with? Personally, I think a sales tax and a GoFundMe. Massive federal government GoFundMe. So,
I can picture the comments now.
oh yeah, it'd be hilarious. But it wouldn't be just a general federal government GoFundMe. Like there would be branches of the military with their own personal GoFundMes or like units they're in. And so if you really appreciated this part of the, you know, let's just say, okay, because federal grants have been given to colleges. If you want to donate to those colleges, there's a GoFundMe attached to those lunatic colleges. That way, it's not just being taken out of the whole pie. It is actually people saying, yes, this is something I believe in, put my money in this, to have it go that way.
Hmm.
So if of the three taxpayers here, I like this, you like that, you like this, our money goes where we want it to, and via sales tax, other things happen.
Now,
That
is
is,
it a mandatory GoFundMe, or it's just kind of like, yeah, I have.
I my the way I kind of play with it is like it is a tax rebate if you can prove that you gave to the GovFundMe. Let's call it GovFundMe. All right, so it's its own website. Um, you get a rebate on your sales taxes at the end of the year, like what you paid on sales tax. Because I also like the sales tax plan.
hmm.
Hmm.
So I buy a nice big beautiful boat. I pay 10,000 in sales tax. I decide to give 5,000 to the U.S. Navy. I get a $5,000 rebate on that boat. But I've already paid it. I'm just choosing where half of my taxes go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of a mandatory, GoFundMe, call it whatever you want, like a certain percent of your income has to be set aside, or, donated, whatever, but you get to choose where it goes. That's actually a pretty interesting idea too.
Yeah. GovFundMe.
Yes, GoFundMe.
Copyright.
But man, what an undertaking that would be.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
once again, we're all fantasizing. We actually have to work together to repeal the 16th, like the 18th was repealed, and replace it with something that works where our federal government does get the funding it needs, and some of the garbage and fraud does not.
Hmm.
I, for one, believe that the churches honestly should be the ones who are taking care of the homeless, destitute, hungry that way because when you do that, the people actually have to meet people and not merely just get a check and then a card and not say thank you to anybody and not be held accountable. And like, oh, you're just going to sell this so you can get some alcohol. No, no. Going back to this amendment, come full circle. So that's right. You can GovFundMe FEMA. All right. Let's any more questions on that one?
Nothing here.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
guess I'm just gonna look in later to see exactly what string of events happen that they're like not a partial ban, not like a limitation for like things, but just flat out none at all. So
Yep. And then let's walk into the 19th Amendment, and then I want to talk about these 16th through 19th as a whole. Passed by Congress June 4th, 1919, ratified August 18th, 1920. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This is not suffrage. This is voting rights. Suffrage is also bearing the responsibility of the votes, the draft, bucket brigade, and quite a few other responsibilities that men had to be a part of in order to vote. So, going back, I think last week we talked about how women do not have the same suffrage rights as men do. They merely have the same voting rights.
Yeah, I don't know if rights is the right word. It's more like suffrage responsibilities.
Yeah.
They got the one
Suffrage.
right.
Well, it's right there. Suffrage.
Yeah, right.
So I don't think we can even call it suffrage anymore. I kind of laughed back in the day. They had this, there were two things that people put out on college campuses to have people end, and one was women's suffrage, and the other was by hydrogen monoxide,
Hydrogen
which was
monoxide.
found in nuclear power plants. It's very dangerous. It's even ending up in baby formula. So dangerous, Doug. You should really, make sure there's no hydrogen monoxide in your house, which is H2O, water. But anyway, but that was the whole joke: is people not paying attention can write away their stuff because they're just like, oh, I'm voting, I'm getting involved, and they will have just banned water and votes for women.
Yeah.
This doesn't say suffrage. This does say vote.
Mhm.
So, so maybe we should start suffrage for women campaign where they can get drafted.
Yeah. In today's political climate, that will be voted in so quickly.
Oh yes. Well, they're just as strong as men.
Yeah,
For the record, we appreciate women. When we think they're awesome. We also understand that their strengths are not our strengths.
exactly. Different but equal.
Yep.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, amazing at what they do.
Amen.
All right. So yeah, this one's suffrage. Cut dry. Or this sorry. I just I'm tired. I just countered myself. This is voting rights for women. And on to oh wait, I did want to cover these four. So these four, once again, came out of the Woodrow Wilson time era where there was a lot of popularism that just pushed as hard as it could to get these four amendments in. Um, they needed money, so they put in the IRS. They needed to change the Senate makeup, so they pushed this through. They wanted, for some reason, to knock out alcohol and women's suffrage. And quite honestly, the four that America has been struggling with the most are these four. One of the, sorry, gals, hardest things about this, the women's right to vote, is that they started picking their candidates based on looks and not on abilities, which has been painful. So, um,
Yeah, it is interesting that they passed 4 amendments in 10 years.
Yeah.
That there wasn't one for 40 years before they passed the, 16. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's less than 10 years. Oh, ratified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been few and far between before that point.
And I'm not one for taking away the right to vote from women. But once again, I do believe in there's a suffrage. Personally, I think that there should be a citizenship test for every natural born American that before they get the right to vote, they actually have to understand the process. I think there's a lot of low information voters of both genders, of all colors, and of both political persuasions who don't understand how things work and they go out and vote. So, personally, gender, color, doesn't matter. Know how the machine works so that you can help with the machine. But of course, as we see with, shall we say, California CDL tests, any test can be cheated. But even still, there's that higher standard. Before you vote, you actually have to have some grasp of what it is you're voting for and voting on. And if that also means like the draft for women is they can be conscripted into factory work at the same pay as frontline fighters, then that's fine. I'm okay with that. Little bit of fan of Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers, the book, not the movie. And there's discussions to be had on that, but that is there does need to be that some level of personal buy-in and understanding.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can get behind that.
So, all right. I want to jump into the 20th Amendment. We're cruising right along here. We might even
Hey, but
read the 21st that outlaws the 20th. Make a big jump. All right. Full disclosure. This does Article 2. Okay. So we already talked about a lot of this. But we just got to read through it. Passed by Congress March 2nd, 1932. Ratified January 23rd, 1933. The terms of the president and vice president shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of the senators and representatives shall be on the third day of January. Of the years in which such terms shall have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. So, changing the days that you jump in office. Section 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall begin at noon on the third day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 3. If at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president elect shall have died, the vice president elect shall become president. If a president shall not have been chosen for the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the president elect shall have failed to qualify, then the vice president elect shall act as president until a president shall have qualified. And the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a president elect nor a vice president shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected, and such person shall act accordingly until a president or vice president shall have qualified. Full disclosure, I have absolutely no idea what just came out of my mouth. Can somebody help me, please?
yeah, so if the president dies, vice president becomes president.
Okay,
If both of them are unqualified, then Congress decides who will be president.
sweet. Thank you. All right, can somebody pick it up in section? Is anything else about those first three sections?
I was just gonna look and see what it was before. Why did they change the day that they have to meet?
Railroads.
What do you mean?
Short answer is travel became far, far superior, safer, and more swift. Cutting edge technology of 1930 was this thing called the train.
Hmm.
And it could go across the entire nation in days instead of the. Anybody here play the Oregon Trail as a kid, the green version?
Oh yeah.
Yep. Instead of the 3 month journey by wagon. So one of the difficulties for the was just travel. And the railroads fixed a lot of that.
Okay.
But they made the date later, so they went from December 20th to January 20th. Why? Why? Do we know?
My knee-jerk reaction is so the lame duck president has more time to screw stuff up.
Ah, okay.
That's my autumn. I could be totally wrong. That is my first gut instinct.
It's such an arbitrary day, January 20th.
Probably not to interfere with Christmas, too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Not to ruin anybody's Christmas for the president, the new president starting 5 days before.
Yep.
Good point.
I'm just looking back at our last election. Merry Christmas. It's President Trump. No!
Yeah.
See what happens to suicides in the holiday season if that were the case.
Oh man.
Jeez. Dark humor. Um,
But I can read if you want me to start with section 4.
sure.
All right, section 4. The Congress may by law provide for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president whenever the right of choice shall have developed upon them, and for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president whenever the right of choice shall have developed upon them. Did I read that twice? Sorry.
No, one for the president, one for the vice president.
Okay. Section 5. Section 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following the ratification of this article. And then Section 6, this article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislators of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission.
Okay, that's the second time we saw that. Also, an article, the prohibition article.
Yeah.
So there's two ways I can take that last paragraph because it's equally got that language. Either they understood that what they were doing weren't very popular, or they're trying to pressure people into getting this done. And by having a time limit on it set, like we either get it voted now or it's not happening. Ratified now. So,
Kind of a weird way to try to get what you want.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, if you don't vote it in by this day, it's not gonna happen.
yeah, this paragraph it strikes me as a double law. Like we find out later in the 27th Amendment, that was written way back at the founding of the country. And a guy worked to get it passed back into law, and it was something about Congress. We'll cover that later. But whenever I see a double law, things make me think that there's some um, shoot, the best word I can come up with right now is hanky panky. I'm getting tired. My words are not what the ones I wish. But so some it's a C word. It means when government officials are being bad. Corruption. That there's some corruption happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
so
fading
I
fast.
agree.
When there's a double law, because it's like back in Washington, we would have a don't speed, and then you could get fined for speeding, but then you can get another fine for speeding over 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. So you'd get double speeding tickets. So whenever
How
some,
is it a double law?
yeah.
How? I don't understand.
So this is so section 6 here and section 3 of 16 are double laws. There's already um a way to get it passed. There is no time limits. If Congress votes yes and it doesn't get ratified, it just kind of goes away or just waffles there. We'll see in the 27th Amendment that it waffled for centuries until this guy in Texas picked it up and ran with it. And it got passed through all the state legislatures. So this time limit on these causes me to instinctively say corruption.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
But that's instinct. That is gut feeling. That is not a um,
You're
best.
saying corruption is the cause of primarily like the date change?
What's that?
You're saying for the 20th Amendment, like corruption is why, like they're combating corruption, or they're like this has to do with the date change or something else within.
The section 6 that there is corruption in the writing of this law because
The,
there is the double layer there.
yeah, he's talking about the last part where he says, or where the Constitution says, if it's not passed by this date, then it's not going to come into effect.
Was so is that someone that's basically trying to see it fail? They're kind of like, ah, we're hoping this will fail in the next 7 years.
I do not know.
This way it doesn't, like you said,
Oh, I
waffle
see.
for the next,
2
20
centuries?
years. Someone, shows up and is like, yeah, we do want this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I honestly do not know. And it could also be because one of the things that judges do with a law is they go back and try they should not do they should do is go back and see what people were saying about the interpretation of the words in that law at that time and what they said this law would do, and that gives them a better interpretation of what the words in the law actually mean.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So they may have been concerned that if this waffled, that this and other ones, there could be other ones that were written at this time that deleted. They just didn't want after it comes up to have nobody have any idea of what they're trying to argue in having this pass.
Like the
Hopefully,
reason for doing it could be lost past that time.
Yeah, correct.
Just kind of why do it to begin with then. But
it's almost like they presented it as an appeasement almost. It's like, okay, we'll get it to that point, but if it's not passed by this date, then it goes away.
Yeah.
That's where my mind goes.
Could be also like these are the 4 or 5 that were passed during the Woodrow Wilson time. They could have been trying to push so many things that people are like, all right, you're throwing 86 amendments at the wall right now, and those are going to stick around even if they do all pass. They might have just had such a popular surge in the House and Senate that they could pass all these, and they were not popular with the states at all. So they had to just write these in just to, you know, to have people saying, "Hey, stop throwing these all against the wall. They're not working." Just to delete all of them. I made a number with 86. Project 86 is one of my favorite bands. It's usually the first number I pick when I'm looking for a moderately high number. So, any more questions on 20?
No, pretty straightforward.
All right, let's do 21. Doug, will you read that one, please?
sure. Amendment 21. Passed by Congress February 20th, 1933, ratified December 5th, 1933. Section 1, the 18th article of amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. The transportation or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of laws thereof is hereby prohibited. Section 3, this article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by conventions in the several states, as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission hereof to the states by the Congress.
Got another one of those.
Yep. So that's go ahead.
I was just gonna say this one got passed by Congress and then ratified within 10 months. So
Yeah.
they were certainly ready for this one.
Yep. So prohibition lasted all of 14
years.
years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the ratification dates. January 16th, 1919 to December 5th, 1933. So almost 15 years.
I don't know whether to feel like that's a long time or a short time.
I mean, that's, I'd say, a pretty long time.
You try going 15 years without a beer.
Almost 6 now. Hit me up in 10 years. No, I mean, it is pretty crazy that they were able to. I mean, there was an uproar in America
Yeah.
happen, and it's pretty crazy that they were able to make that change happen in 14 years. I mean, I feel like that's really fast for change like this.
Yeah. That is definitely a full-blown pumping the brakes. We really screwed up on this one.
Yeah.
So, is it just more of, I get that you had people still transporting and selling it illegally. Um, was that really the driver that kept the momentum for wanting to keep it around? Because I don't know how much travel people were doing to outside territories where like they could get it legally. And for some reason, they're like, oh, it's so much nicer to be able to drink this versus, kind of being forced to abstain back in the state. Um, I'm trying to think like because 14 years, while it is a long time, I'm wondering. I don't know what the drinking age was then, but like let's say it was I don't know if it would be 18 or younger. But if you were of that age and you were like it started off when you're 18 and then into 14 years later, were you really like I really want access to alcohol? Or was it mainly just the people who had previous, experience with it? If that makes sense.
I think this is the same thing that took away tribal lands. The everyday working man wanted his beer.
There was no legal drinking age before Prohibition.
Yeah. So at the point that the 16th Amendment came in, that may have been foisted on them by people who knew better, the educated class. But the dumb hicks just said, we want our alcohol. And it was such a severe backlash against progressivism and the Woodrow Wilson experiment of government control on behaviors that they couldn't stop it. And so that territory was returned back to the individual. Once again, one of the protected classes in the Constitution is the individual themselves. So taking away the individual's rights to have alcohol is a crime against the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not arguing for taking away the rights. But I feel like people would and they do kind of make the same argument for, more currently illegal drugs. And I would say like maybe another thing that would be for just not abolishing it is I don't know. Like I get that we use grape juice in church now, but
Mhm.
I think at the point it was
Not the
wine.
liquor.
Catholic, yeah. I know Catholic masses they still use wine, so it could also infringe on religious liberty. So
There, this does open up a massive conversation. Um, Let me hit a quick point. Section 2, return this to the states for governance. Take it from the federal government, put it back in the states. That's why we still have in Florida liquor stores,
Mhm.
separate from grocery stores, and also in Washington. They just right before we left, Costco did a big push to take away Washington state liquor stores. Only Washington state could sell liquor, and they did this big push. Now back to your point, because that opens up an entire can of worms, and we got a few minutes left. Micro had Rick Perry, Republican, Texas governor, presidential candidate Rick Perry on one of his podcasts. And it's worth a listen to. I am not pro pot, pro marijuana. And in fact, the way it's being used right now is absolutely disgusting, but there are medicinal uses of parts of it. So there is a discussion worth having, not right now, and not by me, especially because I just hate this run over skunk smell of that garbage.
Mhm.
But there is a discussion worth having, um, especially with shell shock in American military and getting them something a little bit, you know, there are uses. Um, and once again, with prohibition, there are definitely things out there like you're not legally allowed to sell people bleach for drinking purposes, something that would destroy them. I think that would cover like meth and quite a few other things, where it is a chemical that numbs their brain and actually actively destroys them. In which case, some uses of marijuana definitely do that. So there is that conversation is at what point does the federal and state governments protect the individual from the individual themselves?
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a clear answer. Like you can debate all day long for
Yeah.
a long time on that, and it's a really hard line to draw, if you even can.
And take into account also that there are people who doctor shop for somebody who'll give them the right medication for their things. Sometimes for good, sometimes for ill. You know, get to a doctor who'll give me the treatment you want or need.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So don't just settle and get a second opinion, third, fourth, fifth until you get the opinion you want. Classic example of this was surrounded on Jubilee when Bet David offered this girl, I'll tell you what, I'll help you find a specialist for your medical needs. And can I find you a psychiatrist too? And she freaked out because she had doctor shopped her psychiatrist. It looks like that. And her psychiatrist was giving her the affirmation she wanted, not to get better, but to blame others.
Mhm.
So there is one, but it does need to be sunk back down to the states and individual on some long form conversation. And it
Yeah,
definitely should be coming from South America.
shouldn't be coming from what?
South America.
Mhm.
We don't need
One
imports.
more time, I'm sorry.
Should not be coming from
Oh,
South America. We do not need those imports.
okay.
We're industrious enough. Just ask Walter White. All right.
America.
So the next one comes up in the 50s after World War II. And with that, we're going to end this section. We took a troubling glance at the last 1925 and the way the world was back then. I mean, the last 5 years have been insane right now, all the way back to the teens. And it looks like last century was the same way. A whole lot of stuff that is going to take decades, if not another century, to fix. So, any final thoughts from you, gentlemen?
Yeah, it's interesting to start to see, the shift that took place in this time period during these amendments. So there was a correction, and hopefully we're headed toward our own correction.
All right. And I'll close this out in prayer. Doug, you got anything?
No, I
Okay.
think I'm.
All right. Just making sure. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for the ability to learn from our mistakes. Thank you for the ability to correct them and not have them enshrined forever. As this generation battles generations of evil in our nation, Lord, please help us reestablish it. This gift you've given us, Lord, let us not worship it, but let us be grateful for it, and let us hand it off better to the generations that come. In your name, amen.
Amen.